Dude, I do want to talk about one thing because I'm on an absolute troll job of the century,
I know you
and
are.
needs to be talked about like at a high level. Like,
It's crazy.
so literally, in October, I tweeted this out and just said this was when like they were just struggling pretty much. I said a trusted Penn State source tells me that Andy Kolecki is gone tomorrow. A front runner to replace him is Michael Schuster developing story. Then yesterday, like when stuff was going on, I was just like, whatever. And I said, I've stayed relatively. Why does this keep popping up? I hate that.
I
I've
know it
stayed
happens to me
relatively
too.
quiet on this whole situation, but here's what I'll say now. I was personally in a board of trustees meeting today where Pat Kraft was popping in and out throughout the day. Everything I've seen and heard, Penn State is pushing for a young, flashy hire. Name I'm hearing right now in the clubhouse is Michael Schuster's. So this has like 8,000 views. This one had 16K views at the time.
Bro,
Then
you have one with like 1 million.
I know. So this is so the Kalani Sataki
Yeah.
thing like gets announced. And I said, just got off of a couple of calls. Penn State is quietly playing chess right now. The plan for a young, flashy hire is already in motion. Hearing head coach Michael Schuster is assembling his staff as we speak. And one name that we keep hearing is former 5-star tight end Adam Brenneman stepping in as program's GM. The board is falling exactly the way Pat Kraft wanted to. Absolute masterclass. Expect more information to come. Adam then quote tweets it. This has 500K views. This tweet's rolling in on 900K.
It's crazy. It's fucking crazy.
So it's crazy. And then this has 40,000 views. Then like this, like where I said as expected, like talking about the GM, this has 30,000 views. Like then Adam confirms that he doesn't have any compliance issues with NIL. This has 4,000 views. And then like today, like
dude, the one with 900K views is outrageous.
Oh, dude, this is the best one. This is I retweeted your Brian Hartline.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
This is the best.
You see that pop up.
This is the best one. Pat Kraft is an absolute hell.
Oh yeah,
the Pat Kraft situation is an absolute masterclass in narrative control. The whole thing reminds me of when Sean Payton baited the Vikings into trading up for JJ9 McCarthy while quietly knowing Bo Nix was his guy all along. Kraft is running the same psychological chess match. He's letting the entire college football world convince itself he's chasing the biggest names in the coaching pool while his real target is the young flashy hire he said circle from the job, and everyone's falling for it. He's pacing the rollout perfectly, letting tension simmer until it gets the boiling gotcha moment. Queen's Gambit. This has 8,000 views and like people are like literally like, what the fuck are you talking about,
dude?
They're like, what?
Dude, honestly, if you believe,
I mean, it goes deeper. It goes deeper than just the fan base on Kalash or whatever the hell this thing's called.
Kalashi, dude. I know people are all over it. It's actually insane.
Michael Schuster has money on him to become the next head coach.
Oh, I thought you photoshopped that.
No, this is real.
Oh, I thought you photoshopped it.
Bro, this is real. Like Michael Schuster, John Gruden, bro, they have a headshot of Michael Schuster on the website now.
Oh my god. I actually thought that you photoshopped those on your own.
No, so I single-handedly like have this
got Schuster into the Penn State coaching discussion.
Ridiculous narrative going on. I did a milli in the last 24 hours on social media. Like it's just absolutely crazy. What a crazy troll job by me right there. I mean,
I can't believe people are actually eating this up all across, even just like no disrespect to Schuster. He's headed on a great career path. He's a freaking quarterback coach at Akron.
Well, Penn State's desperate. That's why it's funny.
It is very funny. It is extremely funny, but just so many people believe everything they see on the internet.
Dude, people like you could tell that like somebody just quote tweeted the Pat Kraft masterclass in narrative control, and somebody just said, "This is wonderful, LOL." And like people are people are like actually thinking that this is like hilarious, like, and they know that I'm like messing around, or like people think it's like dead serious. Like somebody was like, if you're right about this, I'll take you to a game of your choice this upcoming season or something.
Okay, well
like
that's actually all time.
so it's been a great day for me about this Penn State coaching hire. Let's move into this college football carousel, and it's been spoken at nauseum, like across the internet, of like the Lane Kiffin situation and all that stuff. I personally don't have much vetted interest in what happened with the Lane Kiffin situation. I think that like on paper, it's a pretty easy situation. A better job popped up. The LSU job popped up, and he wanted to go and take it instead of being at Ole Miss. I don't think that that's that crazy of a thing that he wanted to go do. Do you agree with that, or?
No, I agree. I think that the way that it kind of worked out I feel kind of bad for Ole Miss kids and those fans just because their best season in however many years and their coach just kind of dips out, but that's showbiz.
Yeah, that's showbiz, and that's how the calendar plays out. We've talked about that like 100 times. That's just the way it goes, and you can't really fault somebody for wanting to go get paid more money and be in a way better situation in LSU. I mean, LSU is a top job in college football by far. So yeah, obviously people are going to jump ship for that. So that's just the reality. Like Noah said, that's showbiz. What I do want to talk about is the one that matters the most right now, the one that's getting the most publicity, and that's the situation that's happening at Penn State. I said this when it happened. I don't know if I said it on here. I know I texted it to you, that I was like, honestly, thinking back and watching what happened and how James Franklin got done during his exit is going to cause problems for the next head coach that comes in and wants to coach there. And I was told that that was complete bullshit. And I think that that is one of the main reasons right now of why Penn State, there's probably a million reasons, but one of the reasons why there's such pause of what's going on with this Penn State coaching situation, where James Franklin was 104-45 during his 12 seasons, 2016 Big Ten championship, 6 10-win seasons, a college football appearance, great at recruiting, like all-time great at recruiting, and then turned Penn State around post-Paterno, post-sanctions era to be a relevant, viable contender in this era. And obviously the big criticism of all of this is the 4-21 versus the top 10 opponents not being able to win the big game. But after a 3-game losing streak in the middle of the season, for Penn State to quote unquote get a jump on this coaching carousel. And I said at the time, like, I say it again, like, how can you be that successful and then get fired the second that there is, and then jump ship the second that there's some like rough waves? And then obviously, like, I think that the James Franklin era reached its ceiling, what was happening there. And I thought that it was probably time to move on as well. I don't like disagree with that. But I do think that he deserved the decency to be treated a little bit better during his exit, just because of everything that he did for Penn State at his time there and how successful he was throughout his tenure. So one, my question for you is like, do you agree with that, like, at all? Like, do you think that like he got done a little bit dirty? And where are you at currently with this whole coaching carousel of Penn State?
Do I think he was done dirty? I don't know. Like, coaches get fired all the time before the end of the season.
Do you not think that it's different? Like, but that's my main question. Like, I think that like whatever, it is what it is. Like, yes, coaches get fired all the time, but do you not think that it's kind of different with this Penn State job? Just what James Franklin did in this tenure to take this job and make Penn State like who they are, pretty like he made Penn State the national contender got the respect from people, preseason polls, the whole nine, just because of what he was able to turn Penn State into post Paterno sanctions era. Like, do you not think that that's like a little different, like with just like getting the boot mid-season after a 3-game losing streak?
I think there is an argument to be made, but like I think that it needed to happen. The thing that Paterno James Franklin could always hang his hat on was how he would bounce back after a loss like that to a big time program. And what you could always count on James Franklin for was to beat teams that he was expected to beat. And that is a UCLA team that was one of the worst in the country, probably a bottom 5 Power 5 team, and Northwestern. 20-point favorites against both of them, loses both outright, and is asked multiple times if he still wants to be the head coach at Penn State in post-game press conferences and chooses not to answer every time. So you can make a case that because of the amount of success that he had, and I'd listen to it, but I think that the writing was on the wall after that first loss to UCLA, where it's kind of like, is this really about to happen again to Northwestern? And as you saw that game play out, it's like, oh, holy shit! Like this is about to be the worst 3-game stretch in the last 25 years for Penn State. So I don't think he was done dirty because he didn't do his job. He wasn't doing his job. He set expectations extremely high at the beginning of this season and significantly underperformed in this season. And I just I think it looks so much worse now because of how poorly the coaching search has gone, that they fired him at that point of the season, because it's almost like, well, if you didn't know who your coach was going to be at this point, why wouldn't you have at least waited until the end of the year? But I think it needed to happen at that point. I just think it looks so much worse because they currently sit there today without a head coach.
Yeah, it looks absolutely awful. And really what it comes down to, and I think that, yes, the writing might have been a little bit on the wall, but I don't think that that was because of James Franklin. I think that was because of Pat Kraft and who Pat Kraft and the character of Pat Kraft is and what role he plays in all of this. To go to Franklin's office and tell him, oh, we're going to be a portal heavy team from now on. We're not going to do like the recruiting thing as much as you do it, when that is James Franklin's bread and butter or whatever. Then there's a story that came out that has something to do with like the Nike and Adidas deal that was done behind James Franklin's back, I guess, something along those lines. So I think that, like, yes, the writing might have been on the wall from the aspect of like, was the James Franklin and Pat Kraft marriage strong? I don't
No.
think so. So I think also like that even solidifies my original point even more, is Pat Kraft was reacting out of hatred, I guess, that he has towards James Franklin, or disagreement that he has towards James Franklin. And to fire him, get done dirty, and now to be the laughing stock of college football currently, to be getting absolutely played with because every single college coach in the country is now getting a raise off the back of Penn State, and they're not even entertaining the idea of potentially taking the job. It's just speaks. I think it just speaks volumes. Like you said, like I'm saying that because I'm watching the way that it played out. Well, I said that before it played out this way, and now it's playing out in probably the absolute worst way possible.
I do genuinely believe that Pat Kraft was acting and has tried to do a good job. I just think he's incompetent. Yeah, I think that Pat Kraft was genuinely trying to act in the best interest of the university by signing the deal with Adidas. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. They'd be bringing in a ton of money for Penn State. they would be one of the premier Adidas schools in the country. And I think that that's a good move. I think that that is a great way to improve your program. I don't know if you heard me say this part, but Penn State was probably like somewhere between like 8 and 12 as like the most important schools for Nike. And it really never felt like Nike cared that much about Penn State. So, and I say that because they would never send representatives out there to just like check in or anything along those lines. I mean, they made that logo for Saquon and completely just tossed it to the side after like 2 weeks. So, I don't fault him for firing Franklin. I think it needed to happen, and I don't fault him for the um, the Adidas deal. I think that that was a good move. I do fault him for his incompetency a as the leader of the next coaching decision because he's clearly way in over his head at this point. I think his original plan was trying to poach Kurt Signetti from Indiana, and even that would be like I'm unsure about. So it felt like once that wasn't happening, it's like, all right, well, where do we go from here? And he's been all over the map. And it's just been the biggest possible failure that you can imagine. And I hate calling for people's jobs, but he should be fired. He should be straight up fired.
Yeah, I think there's a few things that we need to address here. Some elephants in the room before we move on to this. Adam Brenneman said when Coach James Franklin got fired that Penn State was an equal job to the LSU job, which you then doubled down on and said absolutely, like they're equivalent jobs. One, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my entire life. You were wrong. The second thing is you talked about how Nike doesn't care about Penn State and blah blah. Like, is it fair to say at this point to watch this play out the way that Penn State isn't as important as its fan base thinks it is? Like, you can't get a head coach. You weren't able to retain any of the recruits. I mean, you got two today. You have what I forget where you're at, 150th or something like that. There's 136 FBS schools or something like that. You're under like Montana State. Like at a point, like you're not even like a destination where guys were able to rally around and stay. There was a legitimate file ring out of Penn State, and it was in a better spot than it was currently after James Franklin left. So at a point, like I just feel like Penn State's just not as important as its fan base acted like it was when they had their chests puffed out after James Franklin got fired, acting like this was going to be the next era of Penn State football that was going to set them over the top, when now they're in a position where they are the laughing stock of college football.
I think that Penn State is still an important program.
It's not a blue blood. It's not close to being a blue blood either.
I think that they are a second tier program, which is always what I thought they were. Okay. And I feel like a lot of people would agree with that.
This has been the humbling of the Penn State fan base.
I think it's a lot more than I think it's a lot different than it's being perceived. I think that,
brother, you were the one leading the charge. You were the one leading the charge on
this. I think that it's a lot different because I think in this era, I think it's really tough I think it's a tough situation because if you are a coach and you have something rolling at your current school and they're willing to pay you, I don't really think it makes a ton of sense to leave.
Okay.
Because every school has money at this point. All of the guys that Penn State reached out to, besides maybe two, were at better programs. Or all of the guys besides two were probably are probably around the same level program as far as Penn State, and they all stayed because, okay, well, why would I leave? I have all my guys here. I'm building something here. I'm going to get paid here. Why would I go and start over somewhere else? I don't really think it makes a lot of sense unless you're coming from like a much lower tier school to leave your current program and try to start over somewhere else.
But this is a complete opposite tone of what was being said at the midpoint of the season when Coach James Franklin got fired.
Because I think we're seeing how difficult it is and
I
how
was
important
told
it is to stay at your school.
I was told by multiple Penn State fans, not just you, that LSU and Penn State were very similar jobs to take, and you and Brady even alluded to the fact that you would take Penn State over the LSU job
At the time,
just to have Penn State not have anybody be interested in the job at all, and to have Lane Kiffin, who had a team, the point that you're making, he had all of his guys, he's successful, he was going to get paid there no matter what, to jump ship and go to LSU, which is clearly it's a better job.
okay, so is the point of this just for me to admit that LSU's a better job, or is this like an actual?
It's this is happening because this needs to happen because Penn State fans, including you, were chest puffed out, extremely confident that you guys would get one of the top coaches in the market, that you guys were able to figure all of this out, that this move of firing Coach James Franklin was the right move. Even today, you were asked, does Penn State regret firing Coach James Franklin? And you said no. If you think that, if you don't regret,
no, I don't think they do.
If you don't think that they regret firing Coach James Franklin, you're out of your mind.
I don't think fans regret it at all.
To not have one of the worst recruiting.
I see it. I saw it
to not
every
have
day since it's happened.
To not have a head coach.
There's no fans that were there. I haven't seen any fans be like, maybe we should have kept him.
Well,
I haven't seen one. I haven't seen one.
They're idiots because now you're watching Coach James Franklin go to Blacksburg and automatically making an impact, and they're obviously going to be a good football team.
It is expected almost when your coach leaves that you're taking that risk of the grass might not be greener in hopes of
and it's
growing from what you were before.
And it's not.
I expected there to be some downfall in it. That's what happens when you move on from a good college coach.
Listen, this isn't
especially when you have an AD that doesn't know what he's doing.
This isn't just directed at you. You're a Penn State fan, so you'll obviously take some like, oh fuck, like I need to get defensive about this as well. Not that you're acting defensive literally at all, but that I am friends with like hundreds of Penn State fans, and I've been beating this drum for years, and to watch it play out like this, you're absolutely right. I'm going to take a victory lap on this because it's just, this is like hilarious to watch Penn State absolutely crash and burn.
They'll get it figured out. They came back from the dial ring. I think they'll be all right from this.
We'll see. We'll see. I don't think they don't even want to coach. Nobody wants to coach there.
I think they'll get it figured out. If you can come back from a literal dial ring at your university, you can pretty much come back from anything, especially a guy who can't win the big game.
You know why? Because they had somebody as steady, as good of a leader
as Bill O'Brien,
as Coach James Franklin,
as Bill O'Brien and Adam Brenneman.
Yeah, and Christian Hackenberg. So now, as of now, how many coaches have Penn State like officially missed out on, like legitimately? Like, is it? I had 12. 30? I had 12 here. It's 30,
I'll rattle them off to you.
Go ahead.
Braum from Louisville was one. Steen, the offensive coordinator from Oregon, was another. Sataki from BYU was another. Bob Chesney from JMU. They didn't interview Hartline, but they automatically kind of ruled him out kind of in the Steen situation because of lack of head coaching experience. They wanted him. Brent Key from Georgia Tech. Clark Lee from Vanderbilt. Kurt Signetti, Indiana, Kalen DeBoer, Alabama. Who did I
Matt
miss?
Rule.
Matt. I don't even count Matt Rule. He was never serious. But yes,
I
he was on it.
I think that
There was three other that I
from
was two
from
other that I missed.
from what I've seen and heard is that the idea and what the plan was to hire Matt Rule. That was Pat Kraft's plan. It didn't work out immediately, and then he had to adjust. And this is where we're at currently. But I
Matt
heard
Rule
that Matt
sucks.
Rule. But I'm just telling you, I
I
heard
know.
Matt
I
Rule
saw it
was
too.
the undoubted plan moving forward. So yeah,
It's because him and Pat Kraft are lovers, so he wanted to hook his buddy up.
yeah,
And
it's
Matt Rule is not. You could bring if you're bringing in Matt Rule, you might as well just let Terry Smith be the head coach. Truly, because they
well,
smoked Nebraska, and Nebraska he's just a very average coach. I think that you
well,
could get. I think Terry Smith would do just as good of a job as Matt Rule would at Penn State.
um to continue. Well, you maybe, yeah, like maybe, but again,
Maybe.
you don't know. I mean, as a head coach in general, Matt Rule has been pretty successful. I understand that he's not the most successful, but he deserves a little bit more respect than Terry Smith, who won
I
like three
know.
games this season or
I'm
something. So
exaggerating.
um so we obviously talked about like this like conspiracy now where it's like this I felt like James Franklin got wrong, and then people are starting to kind of confirm the fact that like this Jimmy Sexton power agent who represents all of these like college football coaches is now pretty much like pinning using his leverage with this Penn State football job to get all of his clients paid, but none of his clients are actually going to take that Penn State football coach, which I guess we'll watch it play out, because if he doesn't, then they're probably right. Where I probably thought Chesney was going to be the guy who to take that job, but he goes out and takes the UCLA job, and he's represented by Sexton as well. But obviously, there's some sort of orchestrated plan of attack here where it's like why should we take this? Look at how this guy Pat Kraft is a dick. Why would we take this guy? Give this guy any love? Let's just use this job as an opportunity for you to get more money at a different spot, and that's literally what's happening in front of our eyes.
Chesney was supposed to be the guy, but Pat Kraft got too hung up on thinking that he could steal a Mormon head coach from BYU, a guy that played at BYU, that grew up in Utah. He thought that he could pull that off. And Chesney said, I'm not waiting around any longer for this. I'm accepting a job. And that's how he ended up at UCLA. If Pat Kraft would have signed literally anybody, Penn State fans would have been like, okay, cool, we can work with this. But we're sitting here today and they don't have, like, there's no coach. And it's just ridiculous. But the Jimmy Sexton thing, I believe it to a certain extent, because as an agent, like, you're supposed to go to bat for your clients. I do think that there were people that were seriously interested in this Penn State job, but I think this kind of goes back to what I was saying of, if you could also use it as leverage, that you're going to do that too. Like, I think there was interest, but if they were using it to say, okay, I can come back to Penn State, or I can come back to Louisville, for example. Let's just use Jeff Brom. And I can use this to get a pay raise and get paid the same amount. I'll probably just stay here because then I don't have to uproot everything that I have. So I think that there's more interest in this job than it has been led on, but I think that Jimmy Sexton is just absolutely shoving it to Pat Kraft too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what's going on here. Really, I just wanted to talk about the recruiting thing, because you were like, I fully expected some guys to swap to Virginia Tech, and this isn't me like being a dick this time. This is like me actually trying to figure this out. I agree with that, like, to a point. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's always going to be people, but not one kid. Like, obviously there was two kids, whatever, but like majority of the kids, half the class wasn't like, well,
Yeah.
we like Penn State. Like, we're going to stay at Penn State, which just makes it feel like Penn State is just a replaceable chess piece in all of this. And they viewed Virginia Tech to be pretty much a exact similar. I like Virginia. I've spent a lot of time in Virginia, in Blacksburg and Christiansburg. I spent a lot of time in State College. I think that if you spent time in both those places, I think it's relatively easy to be like, I'd rather spend time in Blacksburg and Christiansburg compared to State College. So I could see that aspect of things as well. But usually, going into this, I thought higher of Penn State than what has pretty much been playing out.
What it was James Franklin selling these recruits on James Franklin and not Penn State. It was, I can do this, I can do that, I can get you here, I can get you there. And rather than necessarily trying to sell the Penn State brand. And I think that's why so many kids left and went to Virginia Tech, half the class. Like, I think a lot of those guys were more bought into James Franklin than, and that's what they were sold rather than selling Penn State as a whole, which that's okay. Like, whatever it takes to get guys to go to school. Like, I wouldn't give a shit at all if I was sitting here and heard that as James Franklin was still the head coach. Like, do what you got to do to get the best talent to your school, whatever it takes, right? Like, if you have a better sales pitch to sell yourself than you think you can provide to sell the university, just because you know who you are, and you can fall back on, I've done this and I've done this. Hopefully you didn't tell anybody that they'll expect to play in an ACC championship anytime soon, but he can clearly sell himself as a coach.
All right, let's calm down on like the shot. I mean, you're literally sitting.
Come on, I got to get one shot in there. Give me one.
You have nothing. You have no legs to stand on.
I don't care. What do I care? I'm allowed to take a shot whenever I want.
You are the most passionate.
I am, and I'm allowed to take a shot
because we made fun of you that Indiana lost and on a fucking stretch. You have no legs.
I don't care. I'm allowed to make fun of Franklin.
I'm allowed to make fun of
Franklin. I'm allowed to make fun of Franklin.
But you do care. Don't say you
about Penn State. Yeah, but I'm allowed to make fun.
You care a lot.
Of course I care about Penn State, but I'm allowed to make fun of James Franklin. That's what I'm saying. I don't care about him.
I'm standing up for Coach James Franklin. You have no legs to stand on. Okay, continue.
Doesn't matter. I will take shots as I feel.
So I guess
necessary.
where I'm coming from is like, yes, I expect some guys to fall. Did I expect them, and it's continued to drop down even more, to have a worse recruiting class than like Missouri State, Montana State, like all of these schools that you like read off? Like, would you say yes to that? Because I would say that, like, I would never expect that personally.
I didn't think they would sign any kids today. I said this already. That was my expectation coming into today. I fully expected there to be 0 kids that signed to Penn State. So the fact that they managed 2 4-star players at the 2 of the most important positions in football, I'll take it.
Yeah, that's insane. I disagree, but it is what it is. Because if you're able to keep those guys, like, I thought that you'd probably be able to keep a little bit more, but that's just me. So
that would have been great. But when you don't have a head coach and the staff that was in place was telling guys, hey, we're leaving.
Can we also like address something right now? Hiring Terry Smith would be an awful idea. I don't know.
I agree.
Why that is like such like a big narrative that everybody wants. The guys on the team want them, this, that, and the third. Like, if you are Pat Kraft, it is an utter disaster if you hired Terry Smith. If you hired Terry Smith like after the last game, okay, whatever. You know what I mean? Oh, you're sticking with that guy. It is what it is. If you hired
that at least shows that you had some confidence in him being able to do the job.
If you hire Terry Smith now, and not just Terry Smith, anybody who accepts this Penn State job at this point, and you probably will feel similar to this, it feels like they're set up to fail. It feels like this is going to be a stopgap position for whoever takes this job next. And that is the issue with all of this as well, is like, now that all of this is played out, the person who does take it, one, the fan base isn't going to be too happy about it. And, like, nobody's going to be that excited about it. And on top of it, like I said, it just feels like you're set up to pretty much fail at this point.
My thoughts on the situation are this. I think that out of anybody besides Pat Kraft, they would be set up to fail. I think that because of the nostalgia that Penn State fans and Penn State boosters have, they would invest more money into this program than if anybody else were to take the job, because Terry Smith is a guy that played for Penn State, that represents Penn State, the whole 9 yards. Like, I think that I don't think that he would be the best coach, but by any means, and I don't want him to be the head coach. But when the outpour from the fans and the donors are make this guy the head coach, like, that makes it seem like more money would end up flowing into the program because of that. I think if anybody else besides him ends up being the head coach, then yes, they are absolutely set up to fail. Because
it's so funny.
You'll get pull away from the boosters and you'll get pull away from the fans, because
it's so fucking funny though that you say all this, because it's like Penn State can't. When's the last time I won a national championship? 40 years ago.
That's all the people that have the money. That's who they.
But what I'm getting at here is Joe Paterno, in the grand scheme of things, should have been fired a long time ago and never was. And they kept him around for way too long, and he was a perpetual loser. You go ahead and now you're in this new era, and you keep James Franklin around for too long, and he never gets the job done either. And it's just like, well, Penn State fans wants to keep Terry Smith around because it's just like like their core fan base and the donors and stuff like that are actually lost. Like,
they are. They absolutely are.
That might be really the root of the issue that we just diagnosed in all of this. Is
that is the issue.
If that's where your head's at currently after all these years, then like you deserve to be a middling program, honestly.
Dude, the donors are the issue. The donors are caught up in the nostalgia of Penn State and are so headstrong on making sure that the guy has some type of ties to Penn State that's why I think they wanted Matt Rule so badly, is because he went there and he played there.
Yeah.
Is Matt Rule the guy? No, he should not have ever been considered for this job.
Let's close this out. Expectations for next season. How do you expect for all this to go? I know it's a little hard to ask that because there's no coach in place currently right now, and there's still like the transfer portal and all that stuff that needs to go down. But I mean, I feel like you can kind of see the writing on the wall a little bit here. But how do you go from like being consensus top 5 to 10 the last like 8 years or whatever like that, to now they're really questioning like how many games you're going to win next season?
I think they, as of right now, without a coach, with 2 recruits, they lose a ton of guys. And
they do lose a ton of guys. Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen as far as guys that are graduating goes, but like, I think as of right now, they probably win 4 games.
So if
I had to put a number on it, they probably win 4 games. They don't have a coach. They're a very top-heavy senior starting group, and the only thing that plays, like, once I get a better feel for who the coach would be and what the roster sort of shapes in to be, I think they could be somewhere from 6 to 8, but as of right now, I have to put it at 4.
I completely agree with you. I
just spit it. Good girl, we're getting paper as a passion. Collect the stash.